And we're working with many or several other central banks on more advanced use cases in real estate tokenization space. We're working with some in cross-border liquidity markets using both order book and AMM type markets as well. That all comes together. So there's a lot happening in the CBDC space. I think it is the future, or a key part of the future, and I think will be a key part of bringing seriousness and institutions to the DeFi space. Bringing seriousness and institutions to the DeFi space.
Automated market makers, I think, will help improve that liquidity because they can capture a long tail of assets better than technologies like order books can.
And a sort of secret sauce that will allow liquidity providers to get more of the profits normally lost to arbitrage, and it will be bolstered by incentive programs. The value proposition of XRP is that it has these liquidity pools. Automated market makers on the XRP Ledger could be a game changer, uniquely positioning it to leapfrog other DEXs.
The XRP Ledger is poised to become an ecosystem of cooperatively interconnected XRPL protocol chains.
The value proposition of XRP is that it has these liquidity pools.
Early vision was these pools of liquidity that everybody can contribute to and everybody can draw off.
Welcome to the DeFi Standard, and this is Mickey B. Fresh. A huge announcement at this year's 2023 Swell in Dubai. Ripple announces a new integration with XRP Ledger's native decentralized exchange will buttress global liquidity options for Ripple customers, streamlining the customer onboarding into new markets and improving product performance through new expanded liquidity options. Similarly, Ripple has spent years creating a robust global network of on and off ramps. Ripple payments today, we have 70 payout countries, representing more than 90% of the daily FX market. In the future, Liquidity Hub will tap into the power of Ripple's global network, combining the power of crypto liquidity and the access to markets. So we have a convergence coming, folks. We have the integration to the XRP Ledger's decentralized exchange and coming AMMs, which are part of the decentralized exchange, which I've been saying has been happening for a year and a half, continuously, repeatedly, that this is the plan. And now we see that validated. The second convergence we have is the integration of Liquidity Hub into Ripple's global network. Now, what do they mean by Ripple's global network? So there's a payout network in these 70 countries. So they have to be able to off-ramp to the account-based system. And that's the reason why there's no flip of the switch happening or any of that. And why I say that, it's because we're in a situation where we're transitioning from an account-based world to a tokenized world. You can't do that overnight. Now, by integrating with the ledger, what does that mean? Liquidity sourcing from the ledger means you need tokenized fiat. So David Schwartz has said we are in talks with financial institutions to issue premium stablecoins on the ledger. And that will spur a monster DeFi ecosystem along with tokenized real-world assets with a DEX order book and an AMM and sidechains and layer 2 possible smart contracts and EVM sidechain with cross-chain bridges. I mean, the ecosystem is going to be rapidly expanding in the next 2 years, as well as the compliance. That is key. The fact that they've been working on a distributed identity solution literally since 2014. So this new integration with the XRP Ledger's native decentralized exchange is significant, and this was announced at Swell. And Emi Yoshikawa says the XLS30D, the liquidity supply side, will be turbocharged. So that's the side that involves us, where anyone can participate. But here's what she says that's interesting. And she goes, the demand side will be expanded through remittances and various use cases. So the XRP Ledger DEX will be hot in the future. And that's absolutely necessary. You can't, this is the chicken and egg problem. How do you get enough liquidity to run global remittance payments in every corridors? And at the same time, how do you incentivize, if you just had people providing liquidity, how do you get the payments to run through the natural volume?
Do you think AI will play a role at all in terms of DeFi for institutions?
I truly think the possibilities will be, unimaginable almost. Key here is that we can trust AI, right, as humans, and blockchain technology will play an important role to weave that trust into the interaction with AI. And there's some crazy stuff happening in the crypto world already today with, tinkering with zero-knowledge proof and using that as an elegant cryptographic solution to make AI trustless. So we can able to trust it, and then you can see things like
self-innovating blockchains being suddenly on the menu, which is very interesting, given that the decentralized network may not be the most efficient one by design, as opposed to, when you have a centralized network, somebody can call the shots and make decisions more quickly.
Right, self-innovating blockchains. That's interesting.
Here we go.
Yeah, I want to learn more about that.
Thank you.
All right, so here we have a nice zoomed out view of the step-by-step guide to Ripple's payment net solutions. And I just want to point out how in step 1 there, how XRP is deposited into the sender's account by Ripple. And this is how all the ODL payments are being used right now. So everyone on Ripple gets a wallet on RippleNet. And instead of having them integrate to every exchange to go buy that XRP. So in the beginning with XRapid, they had to get the fiat onto the exchange. So it still had that pre-funding aspect about it. Now with this, there's no pre-funding. They could just shoot off payments.
Knowledge historically that you would have exchange liquidity providers or partners where the XRP is bought on the open market via one exchange, sent to the receiving country's exchange and converted there. Is that still the same setup? And I apologize if I'm confusing things. Or are you guys also introducing the Liquidity Hub to power ODL? Or is it both?
That's exactly what we're doing. So a Liquidity Hub is aimed at a cluster of problems. So one of them is exchange immaturity. Some exchanges are very mature and reliable, but some are not. And if the exchange isn't working, and if the model is, go to just exchange to exchange, then that produces downtime. And so to add fault tolerance around exchanges, to add cushions where you might have some money sitting somewhere that you could use as a cushion if the exchange wasn't working, to prevent a customer from having to onboard with a dozen exchanges. Imagine Ripple signs up a new customer, like, okay, you need to onboard with these 7 exchanges. And they're like, okay, well, I got to be able to deliver money to them, or I have to be able to get money from them. To alleviate some of that sort of friction and make the whole system smoother, we came up with this concept of Liquidity Hub, which is this idea that, and it's sort of its simplest approach, you essentially would onboard with Ripple, and Ripple would sort of aggregate the behavior of those exchanges. And that abstracts away both the need to become their customer and the need to operate with them, and it simplifies the experience for those users.
And it's really PRISMA managing that topping up of the wallets. Now that we don't know how that works, because in the court docs it did not say. Obviously it was 3 years ago. Ripple wasn't even market making then. So you can only imagine how fast the developments behind the scenes have happened and the integration now at Medico. Think they have this intelligent, basically, platform, and they're building a new engineering team in Toronto to expand what the team in Iceland built. But I want everyone to see this visual. So you see that they start with XRP, and then that gets shot off into the receiver exchange and gets liquidated. And they talk about them as receivers in the PRISMA docs, which we'll go through too. And those seem like sells. So, and because it can easily be interpreted, if you don't listen closely on some sections, that, oh, they're just selling XRP now, it's going to just hurt the price. And that's what I don't want to take away from this. So, but you could see how this is their setup for Liquidity Hub. This is how they're doing everything right now. What is good about this? Means that everyone gets a wallet and they're more likely to use ODL. This is how they could ramp this up. Why is this good for us? This is good for us because he's confirmed that XRP is going to get ODL and Liquidity Hub integrated into the AMMs and the DEXs, and there's a major effort underway right now. And he's most excited for the supply side. So I would think that with PRISMA having this time, they're going to be able to route massive volume through there. He's very confident in that being able to support yield for just us as XRP owners. So even if there's not a whole ecosystem of DeFi built out right away, if there's enough for any XRP holder to just earn that yield, they're going to be more than happy. And that's going to drive demand, and then that could affect the price much sooner than later, instead of Ethereum, which is a whole built-out ecosystem and all different dApps. We'll have that, but by putting this and taking the time to do it right, but pumping through organic volume creates organic liquidity because you have real market takers, not like Uniswap, but we'll mix in noise traders. But this doesn't need a whole DeFi ecosystem to support it. That's what's kind of amazing. As I've thought about this more and more, it really just takes people access to supply that. And if they could do this compliance layer right, it's going to be massive. A whole enterprise section, and PRISMA facilitates all of this. DEX use was the plan all along, and intelligence and in compliance. Like this visual, I think speaks volumes because you could just see it. It shows they're starting with XRP. RippleNet has now evolved to integrate PRISMA. And this is the ultimate goal here, is to connect this to the XRP Ledger, because PRISMA could connect to any exchange, could connect to OTC trading desks, could connect to AMM liquidity pools, and the customers don't need to do anything. That's the beauty. So this is the platform that sits on top of the infrastructure, which is the XRP Ledger. Now that we understand how ODL 2.0 works, which was implemented in 2021 with Liquidity Hub because of the implementation of PRISMA. But there's one component within that diagram is the wallet. And Ripple made it a point in 2021 to put out a Ripple Insights that described exactly what you need to know. It all starts with the wallet. And after this, we're going to watch a video of how David Schwartz explains his vision of the future will be like. So you can look at this wallet as an enterprise wallet, but really a financial browser is a better way of thinking of it because it's a single API plugin for any of these enterprises. So it gives them now access to all these different services, from line of credit to Liquidity Hub to cross-border payments. And RippleNet is no longer just a payments network. And they say, we expanded Ripple's products from a cross-border payments network to a platform providing tokenized services that will bring crypto capabilities to the enterprises and institutions. And payments, line of credit, and Liquidity Hub are the three. And then they show an empty box with 4. So that's now building out this RippleNet to more of a network and a modern cloud hosted. But it's the wallet that's key. But to have a wallet, you need all the supporting infrastructure. Now, this isn't an XRP wallet. Let's see how they describe it. So as customers, this is from 2021. And now this is implemented when they say future. So as customers were ready to move from fiat only to crypto-enabled flows, we were easily able to add new services and capabilities like ODL and line of credit. In the future, which is now, this is implemented currently, every customer will join RippleNet with the same base service and a wallet designed to support both crypto and fiat. By adopting the wallet, customers are now ready to take advantage of the latest blockchain-enabled solutions that will keep them at the cutting edge. The platform is designed to seamlessly upgrade and add new services as customers want them. In the future, which is now, customers can use their Ripple-enabled wallet to custody XRP, BTC, stablecoins, and anything that's tokenized.
I think the future world where people have a sort of a wallet that's a sort of universal store of value. So that could mean tokenized stocks, that could mean cryptocurrencies, that could mean fiat assets, that could mean digital rights to things that they've purchased. It could mean NFTs for collectibles, games. This idea that you have a person who, when they get paid, let's say you get paid every 2 weeks, you get paid, and that money comes in, and you can have whatever you want to have happen to that money. And when you go to the grocery store and you get that bill and you go to pay the bill, that money, that payment can come out of your portfolio of things that you hold however you want. And you could be a millionaire, or you could be, someone in a third world country whose net worth is less than the cost of this microphone. And you would have access to that same set of tools. Obviously, you'd be using them on a different scale, but you would have the same set of options. You like holding gold? When you get paid, you could have tokenized gold. And when you go to pay, at the grocery store, you're using tokenized gold that's being sold. And it's just everything in one place. And that means, like, when you gift money to other people, when you pass away, your heirs don't have to go looking for your assets spread all over the place. You have just so much more control and can make financial decisions on that sort of more controlled basis.
So this is the financial browser for the enterprise. And they just purchased a couple months ago Medico for $250 million, I believe it was. It's $250 million for a technical custodian who has already all those integrations now with the orchestration layer, and Harmonize is their product. But Ripple's Net has also been integrated previously since 2021 with all the other custodians: Fireblocks, Copper, BitGo, Bitstamp. Well, we know Bitstamp, and also Talos. Those are really Copper, Talos, and Fireblocks are the big 3 tech custodian providers that provide this like settlement infrastructure amongst exchanges and custodians. And the fact that Liquidity Hub and really RippleNet in general, because it's all one now, right? And they're sending out these payments. They're not just payments anymore. It's not just cross-border payments that's using ODL. It's now, okay, they want their customers, they want to provide a white label service to their customers with their own front end into maybe their enterprise or institution or investment firm, whatever it is, wealth management, that has their own front end on it and it has its own look. But on the back end, it can then easily integrate to just, they want to buy Bitcoin, it will automatically take their XRP, liquidate it into Bitcoin in whatever the best route is based on how PRISMA routes it. And now, as the AMMs come online and the DEX and AMM are unified liquidity, And the primary market for XRP liquidity forms, as David Schwartz said, there's a major effort underway to integrate to the DEX and AMMs. So PRISMA will route that through the best path. If the best price and deepest liquidity is on the ledger and the AMM pools, it will route it through there. Maybe it's not XRP BTC. Maybe it's XRP USD, USD BTC. However it does, and it might be through a different USD.
This is because the XRP ledger already supports cross-asset payments, and it supports cross-asset payments through multiple paths. So one of the problems with a cross-asset payment, let's say I'm spending XRP to pay somebody Bitcoin, is I'm going to draw down an order book, or I'm going to push the market against me. I'm going to take the cheapest liquidity first, and then I'm going to have to move to more expensive liquidity. The XRP ledger has multi-path payments that can draw down liquidity from multiple sources, and that will include the various automated market makers. So for example, if I'm going from XRP to USD, I can go directly from XRP to USD through an automated market maker order book, but I could also go XRP Bitcoin USD, XRP Ethereum USD through these multiple paths. And if I draw down multiple paths at the same time, I don't have to move the market as much, and so I can get a better rate. Done right, automated market makers on the XRP ledger could be a game changer, uniquely positioning it to leapfrog other DEXs.
And that's where things start really amplifying, is that we have tokenized fiat. That's what's kind of limited ODL from being able to ramp up and take over correspondent banking, because you're in an account-based world where things like CLS and the banks control everything because everyone needs a bank account. But with tokenized assets, you don't need the bank accounts. So things can move very fluently across borders. But that would drive volume through the AMM pools. And PRISMA is going to intelligently route that to the primary market.
So what we really, really need on the XRP ledger is a fantastic, like, US dollar stablecoin, European Euro stablecoin. If we had really good stablecoins in the major currencies, which we don't have yet, then using the DEX would be more practical. So that's also something that we're hoping will happen. We came very, very close to that. We had a deal that I thought was going to close, and then that was 2.5 years ago when the SEC filed suit against us, and so that kind of torpedoed that deal. So we'll see. But we're talking to banks and larger financial institutions about trying to get them to launch some premium stable coins to make that more practical.
Why is this important? Because it involves you. And even if you think you're not going to participate in the AMM liquidity pools, it still involves you. And now everyone who's providing liquidity, and it won't just be individuals, it'll be dApps, that are DeFi dApps, enterprise dApps, services from centralized entities that provide liquidity to the pools. It could have a completely different interface. And ultimately, though, it's providing liquidity. And many applications can do that, and we'll have many side chains. So the more XRP that's locked up in these pools, the more demand, the more volume you could run through them, because you have more liquidity. The more liquidity, the more volume. The more volume, the more fees. That means lower slippage, more volume. It's the liquidity flywheel. Goes round and round. That's what will drive the demand for XRP in an organic way. Now, will there be speculation? Absolutely. But will that be the only thing? No. And right now, we have only that. And we don't have an ecosystem. But now with hooks, sidechain, launching, that is going to be the first step in the building out of a network of XRPL protocol chains and other technologies like Substrate and EVM. So the EVM sidechain is going to come next. Then we got Root Network built on Substrate with EVM. Those are going to all use XRP at their core and drive demand for it. You need demand for the asset and the protocols. Not just this asset, it's like a magical asset and it's used by some banks on some off-ledger thing. Like, that's not going to impact things. Now, it doesn't mean everything has to be done on ledger to impact the price, Because if XRP is locked on the mainnet and issued on a private chain or CBDC chain, and it's got 500 million XRP over there in liquidity pools, that's 500 million XRP that can't be on the market. And same goes for everything that's brought to the hook sidechain, everything that's burning real XRP out of existence. So that's what all these things that will put pressure and drive demand. We don't have any of that right now. And that's where we're hitting this period now where you're going to see it with Ethereum, even though their model is inherently flawed because it extracts value from users. It's earning yield and it's building an ecosystem from staking derivatives. That's what the liquidity pools are going to do for XRP, but in a much more sustainable, efficient, profitable manner that benefits all parties involved. Instead of extracting from the users, it's benefiting the users, and it's bringing in new entities to now provide liquidity from retail to institution to enterprise to anyone. And that's David Schwartz's vision. Public pools of global liquidity. But they've always had this idea of the wallet. Now that wallet's not for retail necessarily, and the direction of the market infrastructure is away from these centralized exchanges. So once you could understand and kind of wrap your head around that, we're not going to just have these legacy, because that's what they're legacy. You're trading within a wallet of some entity that's not a bank, not an institution, in their private database, who's custodying your assets, trading against you as a counterparty, providing the transaction platform, the matching engine, and then offering services. They're doing everything, and that's not how the financial markets work, and it's not how they should, because it's, some people say there's manipulation, and now to an extent there is, and it's the wrong infrastructure there. So it doesn't mean it's going to go away. It's going to be consolidated, and then what Liquidity Hub does on the back end, Ripple won't be the only one who does that. There'll be others, and there'll be prime brokers. Look at what PolySign's doing. We haven't even seen the full breadth of that implementation because there's another component missing, and we're going to talk about that now with the OFAC compliance and how that is something Brad Chase from Ripple talked about. David Schwartz has talked about numerous times and said, look for things from us on that. Arthur Britto, going back to 2014, was saying it. So they've always seen that they have to allow the ledger to provide the way for somebody to be OFAC compliant, but without forcing it on entities, because it's a public ledger. And that's key here.
We are seeing specific blockers to institutional adoption. Like one of the ones that's the simplest and easiest to talk about is sanctions compliance. So your listeners may not know that, like, the United States government has a list of entities that you are not allowed to do business with. And if you do, the sanctions can be, the punishment can be extremely high. And I didn't know I was doing business with them is not an excuse. It's what's called strict liability. It means if you did it, you have to figure out a way not to do it, or you can't do the thing that might create the chance that you will do it. And this is a real blocker to institutional adoption of DeFi. It's just one example, but it's for many companies. It's like, if we can't do sanctions compliance, we can't do it. It's just a hard no. Because they're facing potentially tens of millions of dollars, plus in liability, and there's nothing they can do about it. They're just not going to do it. And so those are problems that are very tangible today. And so solutions like identity and sort of creating a sort of island inside the ocean where there's compliance, these sort of steps towards compliance will help to bring institutions into the DeFi world. And I hope we can do that without trying to change, Bank of America is not going to use SushiSwap. You know what I mean? It's just not going to happen. And SushiSwap is not going to require people to prove absence of sanctions compliance in order to use it, because there's just no practical way for them to do that. And so the thing is, if what is the solution that doesn't try to doesn't try to impose one regulatory regime on an entire blockchain. Like Ethereum is not in the EU ecosystem. The XRPL is not under US government jurisdiction. So the challenge is, if we're going to have public blockchains that aren't in jurisdictions, how can we allow enterprises to comply with regulations if they want to, which they do because they won't adopt the technologies if they can't.
We're in a Web3 community where you have ownership of the network, and it's open and permissionless for everyone to access, and it's inherently built that way. That's just what you're involved in. So once you accept that, we are still early, but we're on our way. And as Ripple's pivoted, we need to understand as a community, and especially our influencers.
That's one of the reasons why we pivoted from banks. In the very early days, we thought the right targets for ODL were banks, and we pivoted to non-bank financial institutions and sort of payment services companies because they have a higher cost of capital. And so those capital savings, and of course the ability to perform transactions on weekends, 24/7, 365, those other benefits kick in. That's one of the reasons why we pivoted from banks.
In RippleNet, each institution typically maintains a core ledger that is synchronized with the balances tracked by RippleNet. So in RippleNet, with on-demand liquidity, exchanges may be abstracted as ledgers to the RippleNet layer by internal software components. Ding, 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 PRISMA. XRP Ledger is a decentralized cryptographic ledger powered by a network of peer-to-peer servers. That's what's underneath it. But what's so great is that PRISMA is intelligent and it can interact with the XRP Ledger. And not only can it, there is a major effort underway to integrate ODL with the XRP Ledger's DEX and coming AMM. And then Ashish Birla was the one who said, it's more likely we'll see Liquidity Hub integrate with the DEX. And he talked about that. So they're both getting integrated with the DEX. The goal is to integrate with the DEX and the AMMs. That's what's going to drive the price. And then built around that a borrowing and lending market is absolutely necessary. Hugo has said it even, that if you're going to have all this cross-border payments between financial institutions, you need a borrow and lend market. But not a Celsius borrow and lend market. You need a protocol-based borrow and lend market. And the AMMs provide the super collateral in the liquidity token. And that's for another video, and you'll see why. There's also an integration module into Swift on RippleNet. It's a software component which connects internal systems and RippleNet. Features include automated orchestration, Swift messaging interoperability, and third-party extensions. ISO 2022, an ISO standard for electronic data interchange between FIs. RippleNet payment object body carries the payment instructions, details governed by the RippleNet payment object standards, which use the ISO 2022 PAX.008 message definition as a basis. And then we spoke about financial market infrastructure, which is that multilateral system among participating institutions used for the purposes of clearing, settling, or recording payments, securities, derivatives, or other financial transactions. So you could consider RippleNet as a financial market infrastructure. Now the ledger, XRP Ledger, could be a component of that, but it doesn't have an operator. And RippleNet obviously is multiple pieces. We see the RippleNet platform, RippleNet home, right? And we also have, we don't need to go into accounts. So there's regional councils. This I found interesting. And groups of RippleNet members organized on the basis of geography or common interest, whose job it is to innovate, evolve, and strengthen RippleNet. There's RippleNet servers and a RippleNet tenant. So RippleNet tenant is like basically RippleNet stream, which is the FX of the price quotes. We know about the rule book. So that's the rules that govern how parties will transact together on Ripple software, providing operational procedures and obligations of members. And then there's the smart liquidation. And this will come back to when we go deeper into PRISMA. And PRISMA is going to turn basically this into a smart network of the future, because that's why there's all this machine learning being built in. And Ripple has a data team, PhDs. They're hiring all these people to build the super intelligent next generation of an exchange of value. That's how you build the internet value. You need something next generation. You can't have just a little order book to do that. This is far bigger than anything Coinbase or Kraken built. It's hard to visualize when it's not quite there yet. And I think once we see it there, just like the Hook sidechain, once it's there, then you're going to see, wow, like watch the difference in this community over the next coming, I would say 6 to 18 months is going to be significant disruptions that can take place for the better.
One of the things that I think one of the things that we learned from RippleNet is, like, when we first started selling payment capability to financial institutions, it was very sort of peer-to-peer. It was like there were these two companies that wanted to make payments between each other. Okay, and so they would both become RippleNet customers. That kind of works. And that was kind of like in the early days of the internet, you would go get an internet connection because there was something on the internet that you wanted. But nobody does that today, right? You don't get an internet connection for Twitter. You don't get an internet connection like for email, maybe, but email with all kinds of people, right? Like the way it works now is like the reason you get the internet is because you can do everything with it. Right. And so we sort of had this transition of RippleNet from a set of people who had a peer to a real network where you could go to RippleNet and you could sign a master contract, and then you could partner. I mean, yes, you would still need to sign a sort of business agreement, but the fact that you were both part of RippleNet and you would both sign this master agreement gave you this framework that expedited the process. And so it started to feel like a real network where you could come to the network, and RippleNet, instead of saying, I'm going to RippleNet because I need to make payments to Australia, say, I'm going to RippleNet because you have these 6 things that I'm very interested in. Oh, what else do you have? And then when we go to a new customer, let's say you're a new bank, and I say to you, hey, would you like to join RippleNet? And you say, hey, I can settle shekels to Israel. We'll say, great, we'll go take that to all of our customers and see how many of them need to settle shekels, right? Like we become your marketing department. So it was that transition. Liquidity Hub is sort of that transition again, where you can think, instead of ODL being like a bundle of, oh, I do want to make payments to Mexico, so I'm going to onboard with Bitso, and then I'll have this one capability. That's good, but that's not as great as, oh, I become a Ripple customer and now I can make payments to all of these places. And so I would think you should think of Liquidity Hub as that sort of networkizing of ODL, of more like on board with Ripple, and now you get this whole suite of services that doesn't involve you integrating with 20 other things.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. You eliminate a lot of friction, and you're just opening up a ton more opportunities for your clients. And
just about to hit that brink. All right, so it's not banks, it's you. I'm Mickey B. Fresh, and I'm out.
But we need you guys to build the future. We need you to tell us what you need. We need you to build things. Is imminent. The AMM solution is going to be deployed. We're going to see more enterprise DeFi applications.
DB Fresh, and I'm out.
So I was always of the mind that this system was going to be ripe for some kind of a disruption. And when I saw DeFi, I started to see where that disruption was going to come from. And I started to understand that this is going to be where it goes. And what I've tried to tell people is what you need to understand about this new DeFi system is it will start in the third world, and it will grow from there in the second world, third world, and then it will come here and completely flatten you. United States, I don't see us in any way being the leader in this.
Oh,
I think we are going to, it's going to be rammed down our throat is what it's going to be. And it just occurred to me that this is a brand new financial system and that this is going to replace the current C5 financial system.
you.